Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for today's video, we're going to be doing a quick dagger build that builds up bleed very fast, very quickly. We're going to show how to start this build early. This was a requested one from a lot of different people, so let's get into the details. After my Reduvia build, I had a lot of people that asked me how to build up bleed quickly with the daggers if they didn't want to dual wield the Reduvia, because another Reduvia is technically less bleed than using a different dagger. In this instance, I went for the Great Knife. This way, I can show you how to do this. You can start this build extremely early in Eldenring and start tearing through bosses' HP and doing a ton of damage and bleed. And we're currently on Journey 8, New Game Plus 7. This is the same character that I did 2 other builds with this week, so it's been a pretty fun character to use. I have 7 currently. This is one of, I think, 5 now that are on max scaling. Here we are, and we're fighting Mog, who is a little bit tanky. Probably should have not phased. I tried it, I think, 3 times in total. Each time he phased with a little bit of HP left. I would have preferred that he didn't. Probably could have done it had I been a little quicker, but either way, he went down extremely fast. Let's talk about where to get to the Reduvia first. Drops from an NPC invader in a Guild Lake. Since we're grabbing the Reduvia, and don't worry, I'll show the map at the end here, you definitely want to start out as the Bandit class. That way you can get the Great Knife, and the Great Knife has a combination move set with the Reduvia, and then I'm going to show you what Ash of War to put on it as well, so you can do this build really early. It's a very powerful late game build as well. As you can see, we're using Bloodblade here. Eventually he gets close and I am able to chew through his HP, which is no surprise since Bloodblade has a lot of bleed on it, and when you make contact with the knife on top of it, it's a ton of bleed buildup. If you're early in the game, Hunter Euro will come to help you with this fight, and you can pretty much dodge around completely and then wait for him, and then the two of you, it'll be 2v1, and you'll end up winning the fight. He drops the Reduvia. There it is in the ravine in a Guild Lake. Not too hard to get. Not far from Gatefront. Get it very early. And then we're going to grab Bloody Slash, which is the Ash of War that we want on the Great Knife. And this is something you can also grab early in Fort Height, and I'm going to show it at the end on the map here. But generally speaking, you're going to go through the entire fort, and then there's going to be a knight at the top of the fort that will drop the Ash of War, Bloody Slash. And this is a really good Ash of War to put on the Great Knife early, especially since without the Wet Blade for the affinity bleed, you can still put bleed on it simply by having the Ash of War, Bloody Slash. So this is going to help you really early, and you'll be able to start this build very quickly in the beginning of the game, and obviously get a good amount of bleed buildup, good amount of damage, build up those consecutive attacks, and then later in the game, you can build on it by getting all the awesome talismans. That will allow you to get all the successive attacks to give you a whole bunch of damage on top of the amazing amount of bleed procs that you're able to get with a build like this, because we're able to hit so many times so quickly. And after we put the Godskin Duo to sleep here, you're going to see how much ridiculous amounts of damage we can do and bleed we can do with a build like this, where we're just able to stack all those successive attacks so quickly with some of the quickest weapons in the entire game, dual wielding, to do a lot of damage, a lot of bleed. And even after the nerf to dual status effects, it's not going to matter because we're going to shred through their HP in seconds. And obviously we have Bloodblade as well, but I did a build on that separately where I was using the Shard and concentrating mainly on that mid-range bleed. This is more for the consecutive attack build-up, for the successive attack build-up that you can get with daggers. And as you can see here, we're able to chew through the HP like it's nothing on max scaling, which is pretty incredible with 2 daggers. And again, you could start this build very early in Eldenring. And this is one that's going to carry you through most of the game. Other than the final boss, who's immune to bleed and obviously isn't going to take much damage as far as the daggers go, the majority of bosses in Elden Ring are going to go down very quickly to a build like this. By the way, I want to mention real quick, if you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to join the Discord. It's in the description below. It is blowing up lately. It went crazy over the course of the weekend, and it's basically been non-stop. It's been a ton of fun. There's a whole bunch of great people in there. And if you're not subbed, definitely sub to this channel too. You're going to want to sub. There's a ton of awesome builds, an entire library on my channel now, so be sure to sub too. For mobs, I'll just show real quick. This absolutely shreds. And then you have Bloodblade too, which you can obviously take advantage to get that mid-range bleed and to play it a little bit safe. And then you can go for, I'm on Xbox, those L1 hits, those just consecutive successive attack hits that can build up and absolutely shred through the majority of mobs in the game with ease. This is really something that's going to be like easy mode as far as mobs go. This isn't going to be too challenging. And obviously, Fair Missoula has some of the tougher mobs. And even with that said, we're able to shred right through them. And as we take on these 2 dragons in Caelid, which I've used lately for testing, we're going to mix Bloodblade in with the successive attacks to see how well it does. Try everything together and see how it turns out. And I think you're going to like it. It turns out well. These are really powerful. I think you're going to like the final result. And a lot of people ask me about the daggers, just the dual dagger build, to see what I can do and build up all the successive attacks and buffs and stuff, and we were able to come up with something that was really powerful too that worked off of the Reduvia. And of course I had the original Reduvia build, but that was simply for Bloodblade, which I still enjoy, as you can tell here, by using it a lot. It's a ton of fun to use Bloodblade because of the fact that you have that mid-range bleed, so mixing that in there while also being able to jump in with the successive attack hits, it's really cool to combine everything together and do a lot of damage. So we use Bloodblade a lot there, but on the second one here, we're going to go for the successive attacks while mixing in Bloodblade to see how it turns out and see what we can do. And keep in mind, all of the successive attack stuff in the game is generic damage. So as you're building it up, if you stop and then use something like Bloodblade, you're going to get more damage out of it because it's boosting that too. And no, you're not building up Bloodblade by doing successive attacks with Bloodblade, but after you do the successive attacks, then if you follow up with something like Bloodblade, it'll give you more damage and be boosted by the generic damage that you built up, which is really good because a lot of situations you might have to take a step back and lose your buff as far as successive attack stuff goes anyway, so it works out and gives you more damage in the end utilizing both. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have the Reduvia preferably plus 10, any seal will do. We have the Great Knife plus 25, White Mask on, Dragoncrest Greatshield, Lord of Blood's Exultation, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Millicent's Prosthesis, and then we have the Thorny tier and the Faith tier for buffs as well. For stats, we heavily invested in Dexterity and Arcane because those are our two main stats. And then obviously we went for 50 Vigor, which I'm recommending in all my videos, a minimum of 50 Vigor as well if you're going for 150 stats. These are a pretty good setup. As you can tell, I got a lot of damage out of them. I got a lot of bleed out of them in general. This is something definitely I was happy with the stats. Preferably, though, I think I would like to get Dexterity and Arcane both to 50, but overall these are solid stats for this build. In a second here, we're going to talk about all the buffs involved in this build, which isn't anything too crazy because this is one of those builds where it's just really good to begin with the talisman setup and all that alone. First things first, we're going to drink our tier, which has the Thorny tier and the Faith tier in it, so we can get our Faith to 25, which allows us to do buffs because we have 10 extra levels for 3 minutes. Golden Vow. Blessings Boon's optional. I've been doing that a lot in my videos, though, for the extra HP because it does stack. Flame grant me strength, then tap her off your FP. Then we can do those successive attacks, and then we have Bloodblade to follow up for a really cool build, really powerful build. All right, so I hope that helped. I know a lot of people are asking me for a dual dagger build that builds up on successive attacks and stuff to kind of go a little bit further with the Reduvia build that I did in the past. It's a really powerful build. In the end, it worked out quite well. You're going to get a lot of bleed, and you're going to get a lot of damage out of this one. If you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to join the Discord. It's been growing like crazy lately. Over the past weekend, we had like 40 or 50 new people. It's been absolutely crazy. If you're not subbed to this channel, if you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on the channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.